All right, let's talk about the story of Jeffrey Epstein. And really, this isn't just about one man's horrific crimes. It's a much bigger, darker story. It's about how someone with massive wealth and, powerful friends could build this giant network of abuse pretty much right out in the open. And the crazy part is, we're still uncovering the secrets today.
And really, the biggest question mark of all hangs over his final moments. So picture this. August 10th, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein is found dead. Not just anywhere, but in a maximum security federal jail. Now, the official story? Suicide. But the circumstances, they were so suspicious, so, convenient for a lot of powerful people that everyone started asking the same thing. Was he silenced?
Okay, let's just look at the facts from that night because they are wild. Epstein is in one of the most secure facilities in the entire country, waiting for his trial. But on the very night he dies, what happens? The security cameras outside his cell? Oh, they just mysteriously malfunctioned. The two guards who were supposed to be watching him? Yeah, they were asleep. And maybe the most unbelievable part of it all? He had just been taken off suicide watch only days before. You have to ask, is that just a string of coincidences, or is something way more sinister going on here?
So, to even begin to understand how something like this could happen, you have to go back and look at who Jeffrey Epstein really was. His story doesn't start with private jets and mansions. It actually starts in a high school classroom. He was a math teacher who somehow, through all these shadowy connections, just catapulted himself into the highest echelons of Wall Street. He became this mystery man, this incredibly rich financier.
And when I say rich, I mean a level of wealth that's it's almost hard to wrap your head around. He used that money to build a global empire of properties. We're talking about the largest private mansion in Manhattan, a massive 75,000-acre ranch out in New Mexico, a luxury apartment in Paris, and of course, the most infamous property of them all, his own private 72-acre island in the Caribbean.
Yeah, that island. Officially, its name was Little Saint James, but the world came to know it by a much darker name, Epstein Island. This was his 72-acre private paradise. The only way in? His personal jet, which had the incredibly disturbing nickname the Lolita Express. And the stories from the island, they're like something out of a twisted movie. A playground for the elite, they said, with resorts and even supposedly secret underground tunnels.
And you see, these properties, they weren't just for him. They were basically stages, designed for him to build this incredibly powerful network. Epstein's social circle was a literal who's who of the global elite. You look at the flight logs for his jet, former President Bill Clinton flew on it 26 times. Donald Trump was a friend and neighbor back in the 90s. Prince Andrew from the British royal family, a very close associate. The list just keeps going. Tech titans like Bill Gates, a ton of Hollywood stars, you name it.
But what's so telling is how these relationships were talked about later, after they had a falling out. For instance, Donald Trump made a point to publicly distance himself. He said he was never a fan and that he'd always refused to go to Epstein's island. And this is a perfect example of what so many of his former associates did. They scrambled to rewrite their history with him as soon as the truly horrific truth started coming out.
So it makes you wonder, right? What was the real deal with these relationships? Was it all just genuine friendship? Or was something much, much darker going on behind the scenes? Well, the FBI found a whole stash of CDs and photos in his home, which just fueled all the speculation that maybe he was blackmailing his powerful guests. Now, to be clear, no official client list has ever been recovered, but that possibility of blackmail, it's still one of the most disturbing and unanswered questions in this whole mess.
And let's be really clear here. Epstein was not operating in a vacuum. He had a key partner in all of this, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was this British socialite, the daughter of a famous media tycoon. But she was so much more than just his companion. Prosecutors called her a co-mastermind of the entire trafficking network. The allegation is that she used her sophisticated image and her social status to be the main recruiter, the one who lured vulnerable young women and girls into their world. The road to any kind of justice here was just incredibly long, and it was full of what seemed like system failures. It all started back in 2005, when a survivor named Courtney Wild filed the first police report. But then, in 2008, this secret plea deal was made that basically shielded Epstein from any real consequences. It took a whole decade, until 2018, for some amazing investigative journalism to blow the lid off how unjust that deal was. And that is what finally led to his rearrest in 2019.
And that 2008 plea deal? Wow. It's been called one of the biggest miscarriages of justice, and for good reason. It was cooked up in secret between federal prosecutors and Epstein's team of high-powered lawyers. And the most crucial part, the victims had no idea. They were kept completely in the dark. This deal didn't just let Epstein off easy, it gave immunity to his unnamed co-conspirators too. It basically slammed the door on any further investigation. So what was the punishment for the documented abuse of dozens of underage girls? Get this, just 13 months in a county jail. And even that was like a VIP sentence. He was given work release. That meant he got to leave the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, just to go to his office. It's just insane. But then came July 6th, 2019. This arrest was different. The charges were federal, and this time you can bet there wasn't going to be any secret deal. And then the court denied him bail. Right there, in that moment, the entire power dynamic shifted. All of a sudden, powerful people all over the world had to face a terrifying new reality. Jeffrey Epstein, looking at life in prison, might finally start naming names. And then, just about a month later, he was dead. Before a single name could be mentioned in court, before he ever had to face his accusers, before the trial could even start, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. The man who held some of the world's darkest secrets was gone.
So after Epstein's death, all the legal attention turned to Ghislaine Maxwell. And if you look at their sentences, the outcomes could not be more different. Epstein's sweetheart deal in 2008 got him about a year and a half. Ghislaine Maxwell, on the other hand, in 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for her role as a ringleader. Now, while true criminal justice for Epstein himself never happened, there was an attempt at some kind of financial justice. A compensation fund was set up using his estate, and it ended up paying out over $121 million to more than 150 of his survivors. It's a financial acknowledgement, at least, of the incredible harm they suffered. But look, money can't just make this all go away. The fight for the whole truth is still going on. In fact, in a pretty rare moment of unity, U.S. lawmakers actually passed a bipartisan act, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And it's designed to do one thing: force the government to release all the remaining documents connected to this case. And the amount of information that might still be hidden, it's just staggering. I mean, we've already had a few big document dumps, right? But even after all that, it's estimated that there are over 1 million pages related to the Epstein case that are still sealed, completely locked away from the public. You know, this whole case leaves us with a really chilling, but really important lesson. It's captured perfectly by this idea that power and money can hide a crime, but they cannot erase it. The shadow of what Epstein did still hangs over some of the most powerful people on the planet. It's a permanent stain, and time is not going to just wash it away. And so, that's where we're left, with this final, haunting question. Epstein is dead, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, but the full story? Oh, it is far from over. With more than 1 million pages still sealed, you have to wonder, what secrets, and more importantly, what names are still buried in there? The truth is still out there,